I was just saying that I'd like to come back to the States and have haystacks. I've been trying to get the English to be more comfortable with haystacks. So I try to make them when people come to our home, and they still don't seem to get it, despite my best efforts. Ozone therapy. I've been using ozone for about 4 or 5 years now. And I've been offering it as a treatment outside of our home for the last about maybe 2.5 years, I think. A show of hands again, because we have some new people here this afternoon. Who has heard of ozone therapy? And has anybody had any kind of medicinal ozone therapy? No. Has anybody, out of what you've heard about ozone therapy, what do you know? What have you heard? Not too much. Okay, so you've just heard of ozone therapy. Does anybody know what ozone is? Yes, you've heard of the ozone layer. And actually, I was a bit worried about coming to California because they like to kind of put a negative spin on the ozone and ozone gas and the pollution that's around, and it's kind of a different thing. And what we're going to be looking at is a bit different to that. Obviously, when you start combining pollution and the natural elements, there can be some problems there. But ozone is, well, I looked up the definition of it. I know what it is in our atmosphere, and I'm going to explain that to you. But what is ozone? Ozone is a highly reactive gas composed of 3 oxygen atoms. Sounds very complicated, doesn't it? Or maybe not so much. So there's 2 ways in our environment that ozone is created. As mentioned, we have the ozone layer that is going around our Earth. And basically what happens is the UV rays from the sun hit the oxygen in our atmosphere, and it splits the oxygen into 3 and creates the gas ozone layer. And then a second time that ozone is generated in our atmosphere naturally is during a thunderstorm. Basically, the combination of electricity as it hits the oxygen atoms creates this gas. And so the first time when someone comes to me for treatments, they say, oh yeah, I've smelled that before after a thunderstorm or on a crisp kind of clear morning. You'll smell it. Even though you might not always have a thunderstorm, you might still have, there's always electricity in our atmosphere. Ozone is being generated, and it's a God-given gas that essentially is helping to purify our air, our water, and our atmosphere, because it has all of these unique components to help to purify things, which I'm going to go into in more detail. How long do we think ozone has been used or generated by humans? Because obviously I'm generating it, I'm not sourcing it from some natural source. I use an ozone generator. Any guesses on how long you think that it has been generated by us humans? Is it a new thing? It has. It's been around a very long time, since the 1800s. Does anybody want to guess who first is recorded using it medicinally? Well done. So Tesla created the first ozone generator, but using it medicinally was Dr. Kellogg. He used it in Michigan at the sanitarium, and he actually used it to treat diphtheria, and he used it in an ozone sauna, which I found fascinating. As Adventists, this is probably one of the key things that got me interested in ozone, because I do like to look at in the realm of alternative medicines, I do like to look at some of Dr. Kellogg's early work, because Ellen White says that he was in surgery and he was being directed by God in the operations that he was performing. And so before he fell away, he had a lot of good information that I think is usable for us today. And yes, he was the first known person that used it therapeutically, medicinally, to treat some sort of illness. And it was for diphtheria. Well done on that. I didn't expect anybody to guess that, so that's very good. So I talked about an ozone generator. You can get ozone generators on any number of different platforms, Amazon, eBay. They have lots of different generators. There's ozone generators for purifying the air. And then there's also, obviously what I use is medicinal ozone generators. And basically the process for that is very simple. You take purified, compressed medical oxygen, you feed it into the generator, you have a hose coming out of the generator, which then you use the gas in various ways to treat various illnesses. The closer you get the ozone to the site of problem, whatever that problem is, the more effective it's going to be. So I'm going to go through kind of the benefits. Ozone is antiviral, it's antibacterial, it's antifungal, it's anti-inflammatory, and it's an oxygen therapy. So our bodies need oxygen. It's super powerful for oxygenating our blood, oxygenating various things. Just in our personal, I didn't even put this in the slide. Obviously, we know about COVID. It was a big part of our lives for a long time, is a problem with oxygen. Jonathan had COVID, and he got it quite bad. His oxygen went very low, and within just a few hours of doing the ozone therapy, his oxygen boosted all the way back up into the 90s. So it is a very powerful tool. Like I said this morning, it's not a magic pill, but it is a very powerful tool that can help with going along with all of our other 8 laws of health and other alternative medicines. I personally get my equipment from a company here in America. Most of my equipment I shipped over to England from America because I find the company, it's called PromoLife. They have a lot of good equipment. So the machines that you get online can be generating the ozone with metal plates. I would stay away from those because the metal and combining metal with electricity just doesn't sit very well with me. The last thing you want to do is be exposing yourself to heavy metal toxicities and those types of things. And so PromoLife uses ceramic medical grade equipment to generate their generators. And they have a wide range of accessories, which I'll show you as well. I'm not anywhere affiliated with PromoLife. That's just what I've chosen to use. There's other companies as well. Just a few of the benefits that I talked about before. It improves circulation. It is amazing for pain. It improves oxygenation of the tissue, increases metabolism. Like I said, anti-inflammatory. It's supposed to be good for cell rejuvenation, which is going to be good for anti-aging. A good boost for the immune system. And like I said, a germicide. Bacteria, viruses, funguses, all of those things die when they are in the presence of ozone. Ozone does very good at a lot of different things. The only complication is getting it to the place where you need it to be. So like I said, for the last about 2.5, maybe 3 years, I don't know for sure what it was, this has been my at-home clinic. As I said this morning, I do work full-time, so this is a ministry that I have basically taken on after I was unwell. I felt like ozone is too powerful of a tool. I had bought the equipment before I got sick, and then because it helped me so much, I only bought the equipment to help my family, close friends, you know, those types of things. But when I saw how powerful it can be to help people, I felt impressed that I needed to start doing more to help the people in my community. And I felt like God was leading me in that direction. But as I also mentioned this morning, I'm an introvert. I'm a shy person. So I said to God, we had an arrangement. I said, look, God, you're going to have to send people to me because I'm not going to advertise. I'm not going to spread. This is the first time that I'm speaking on ozone. My church in England hasn't had a presentation on ozone. Some of them know bits and pieces of what I do, but they probably don't know a whole lot. So I might get in trouble when I go back. But in the picture, obviously, you see an exam chair. There's various bits and pieces. There's a sauna, which you can kind of see, but I will go through a lot of the treatments in more detail as we go along. I'm basically just going to walk you through the various methods of applying ozone and some of the things that you can expect as a benefit, or at least the things that I have experienced with people and the benefits that they've received from the ozone therapy. So this young lady is Esther. She's actually Romanian. She was suffering from severe headaches. She was having headaches all the time. She went to her GP. They didn't really give her a definite diagnosis. I kind of figured it was maybe sinus related at her age, could be any number of things. I think eventually, after a very long time, they determined it was some sort of sinus related issue. But in this picture, she's doing what's called ear insufflations. So basically you see the little, it's kind of like a stethoscope thing in her ears. Basically all I'm doing there is you have an ozone generator. The oxygen goes into the ozone generator, and then the air at a very low rate slowly goes into the ear canal. And so she just sits there for a few minutes. It sounds kind of like a seashell. And that's it. It's painless. There's no real side effects as long as you know what you're doing and you don't overdo it. It can cause some problems, but it can be very effective. She had a lot of good results from it. And in this method, I've had people have good results with things like tinnitus, ear infections, some sorts of anything that's directly head, because obviously it will travel in the sinuses as well through the ears. So there's a few different things that you can do with ear insufflations that is very helpful. So the second one that I have is breathing ozone through oil. Ozone directly is unsafe to breathe. It will be an irritant to your lungs. Basically what happens is you will start coughing profusely. I've breathed a lot of ozone in my experience with it. So what has to happen is you have to bubble the ozone gas through oil, and then it then becomes safe to breathe. It's the method I used to help Jonathan with his, when he had COVID. Again, Esther, you see her in the pictures. It was the same treatment. We did a combination between the ear insufflations and the breathing, and obviously the kids need something to do when they're sitting there for a while, so they do some pictures and crafts and things. The other young girl, she had some seizures and things that we were trying to help with the ozone therapy and the breathing as well. But breathing, again, there's a lot of different things that breathing ozone can treat. It's probably not my favorite thing to use, simply because you lose a certain amount of strength when it comes to bubbling it through the oil. So straight ozone is obviously going to be stronger than when you bubble it through oil or any other kind of substance, but it has its place because obviously bubbling it through the oil makes it safe to then breathe. It takes it into the lungs. It's a great place to use ozone because obviously that's how the oxygen gets into our blood is through our lungs. So I do use it quite a bit. I usually use it in conjunction with maybe something else, because yes, it can be systemic going in through the lungs, but like I said, it's just a little bit weaker than some of the other options. But any kind of respiratory illnesses, sinus conditions, all of those things improve quite quickly using the breathing through oil. The next method, I put head and limb bagging. So in the picture, there's a head bag. And basically, you can use direct kinds of treatment. So I have arm bags, head bags, leg bags, kind of midsection bags. If you have a particular illness in those areas, maybe a headache. I've treated some people with brain cancers. It's a good method to try to get it in that area. Other options, I suppose, skin conditions and things, you can do the limbs. To be perfectly honest, I don't use this very often because I have a sauna that normally if you have some sort of condition in your body, you might as well get the full body effect as compared to just a localized treatment. But there is a place for it because you can really target some areas of your body if you need to. In this case, it is good for various things. But like I said, I don't use the limb bags very often, but it is an option. Cupping is another popular option if you have any kind of, like perhaps a cyst or a boil or some sort of skin condition that is, again, localized. You can put it on maybe bites, scrapes, scratches, burns, all of those types of things. And basically all you do for that is you put it over the area. It's got a little cup. The top black bit is activated charcoal that will, because obviously the gas is going into that little area and it needs a release. So then you're not putting ozone into the air for you to breathe, and that would cause irritation to your lungs. So this can be a very useful tool. Again, probably it's not something that I use too often because I think there's other methods which I will go into more detail on in a bit. So we have rectal and vaginal insufflations. You've probably never heard of these before. It's a good way, again, to get ozone into the body, which is more non-invasive than needles. It is a preferred choice for a lot of different conditions. I see people with a lot of various cancers and things. I will go through some of the testimonials that I've had, but basically you can take ozone into the body via these two methods systemically. So it goes into the liver, it goes into the blood, it can even go into the lymphatic system. It's kind of a new sort of idea for a lot of people, and there's some resistance for it, but do some research because it's actually a very systemic way of getting ozone medicinally into the body without having a needle put in your arm, which I try to avoid, to be honest. But I also do ozone injections and IV drips. So the only ozone therapy that I do not offer to my clients is basically it is like 10 pass, where it is essentially a dialysis of ozone. And the reason that I don't offer that is, one, you need specialist equipment, but two, I haven't seen too much of a benefit from it. It is very invasive. Basically, they take the blood out of your body, they ozonate it, and then they put it back in. To do that, you would have to take a pharmaceutical medication, heparin, so that you don't get blood clotting. And I just don't feel comfortable with combining natural alternative medicines with pharmaceuticals. I think that there's risks, and I don't think that the risks really outweigh the benefits, to be honest, especially since I'm getting such good results from the treatments that I can offer. So basically in here, when I say IV drip injections, you can see in the picture, I'm setting up that piece of equipment. Basically, that is normal drip solution that you would get at a hospital. The ozone is being put into it and saturating the saline solution essentially, and then it's directly intravenously administered into the vein. This again can be very therapeutic. I tend away from this treatment. I know it sounds very clinical, very medicinal. It sounds like something that is more a treatment that you would get at a hospital perhaps, and there's people who are quite comfortable with that because we are kind of geared toward wanting these types of medicines. But I find as good, if not better, results from the other kinds of treatments that I administer, and so this is kind of like a last resort. That being said, I do a lot of ozone injections for pain specifically. I do a lot of injections into joints for arthritis pain, and I have to say, even I am amazed sometimes at the report that people give back to me saying that, wow, you know, I haven't felt this good in a long time. The pain that I've had for 10 years is gone, and it's gone within just a few minutes after the treatment. Ozone injections are painful because it has a burning sensation, but it does stimulate. So because it's anti-inflammatory, it gives you almost an immediate pain relief. But since it's an oxygen therapy, it also stimulates the circulation in that area. So over time, after a few treatments, they stop coming because the problems have resolved themselves. I see a lot of people with any number of various conditions. So arthritis, but then like people who have bad knees, they've avoided knee replacement surgeries, maybe some injuries that they've had. I've had some people come with injuries that they've sustained at the gym or at work. We do some injections over maybe 3 or 4 times. The pain goes away and the people get better. It's probably one of the most common things that I do, to be honest. And they go away quite quickly, all of the problems. So to demonstrate this, like I said, I've always been kind of my own guinea pig. Move that a little bit. There isn't a treatment that I offer to anyone that I haven't tried first on myself. So I had a broken blood vessel. I don't really know how it came or why it happened. You can see in the picture. You can see that that would be your top left. After that was pre-injection, and then the next one was the same day, post-injection. And then by day 4, I only did I did 2 injections directly into that area. By day 4, the blood vessel was completely gone. Did I have pain? No, not really. I was just playing with it because they say that ozone gas can be safely directly injected into veins, and they're supposed to be very good for varicose veins. So I'm practicing with that a little bit to see what happens, and yeah, that's still kind of a playing. I feel like that's kind of a cosmetic area, and I try to avoid more of the cosmetic areas because I have so many people that actually need help, sustainable help with life-threatening conditions. But I do play with some of these things. So I talked about breathing ozone through oil. Kind of a byproduct of breathing ozone through oil is the ozone eventually, the oil, so if you see my little jar there, it's like just has some oil and a base in there. The ozone is bubbled through that oil for the breathing, but after some time, the oil will become saturated with the ozone, and it becomes, so this is olive oil, it becomes kind of a salve, and you can use that for any number of different things. The nice thing with ozone oil is that it will retain the ozone for 2 years outside of the fridge, but if you keep it inside of the fridge, it will retain its ozone potency for up to 10 years. So it's a nice little thing to keep a little pot in your fridge, and you can administer it to any number of different things. On this picture, that's my wrist. I don't even actually have a scar from it. I had quite a bad burn. I was baking, and so you can see the first picture, day 1. It is a significant burn. And for me, just on past history of burns, I would say that that would have taken probably over a month to heal. And I would have had a scar, most definitely. I thought, okay, we'll just try it, see what happens. I started putting the ozone oil on it. The most impressive thing to me was that it took the pain away almost immediately. And these things for me, I find quite painful. Burns I don't like very much. I cook a lot, so I get burns sometimes. So by day 8, you can see that it's almost gone. It takes the pain away, and it helps it to heal very, very fast. I did take another picture. By 2 weeks, you couldn't even see that there was a burn there anymore. So it's very, very good for burns. It's good for bug bites. It's good for any kind of skin condition, eczema, psoriasis, those types of things, because it has the anti-inflammatory effect to it, and it has the pain relieving effect to it as well. It is a topical salve, so if you have autoimmune conditions, you're going to have to look at alternative ways of addressing that internally. But for any kind of just self-limiting skin condition, it works extremely well, and it's something that you can have in your fridge. Skin therapy. So there's a mask. This has to be bubbled through oil as well, because obviously it's going over your face. I use this. So the benefits with this, it says up there, detoxifies the skin. So it's very purifying of the skin, treats uneven skin tones, speeds cell turnover, stimulates collagen production, helps with acne, helps with moisturizing the skin, and it's just really healthy for skin. Another thing that I use this specifically for is eye conditions, because obviously as it's going through the whole mask, it's going to treat all your face as well as your eyes. So it can be very therapeutic in those ways, plus you're getting the benefit of breathing it as well. So you're getting a skin kind of treatment, as well as a lung treatment and a systemic treatment as well. This shows a little bit more of bubbling the oil, and then the ozonated oil. I've used various oils, and I've been kind of experimenting with different oils. Olive oil was the one that they kind of recommended that was best for breathing. So I was using that for the longest time, but then I was doing more and more research to see which ozone oils are good for what, and which, if any, if there's oils that will have more ozone in it, take up more saturation. So the top 2 oils that take up saturation are hemp oil and sunflower oil. So I use those quite a lot because it kind of gives me a range of strengths in relationship to the salves that I'm giving to people for the various conditions. It's a very nice thing. Obviously, if people come for treatments, they have to come to my house. They have to come regularly. This is something I can send home with them, and they can use it themselves at home. As it says there, it speeds healing for burns, injuries, ulcers, acne, cleans and sterilizes your skin, reduces swelling and redness, detoxifies, increases skin hydration, the anti-aging benefits, promotes the release of the lactic acid. That's something that you can use post a gym workout. For example, if you massage it into the areas where you've gone to the gym, it will help with alleviating and preventing any kind of pain from those things. And it does penetrate the skin quite well, and it just calms things. So it actually is a very useful tool that is also convenient. This gentleman, he came in the middle of the night. He called me. He's actually Romanian. He said he had a red eye. It was painful. He didn't know what to do. He doesn't speak very good English. Working in ophthalmology, I know how serious these things can be, so I told him to go to the hospital. He said, I'm not going to the hospital, just give me something. If you don't give me something, I'm going to do nothing. And so I didn't want him to do nothing. I gave him a little jar of ozone oil, and I said, but promise me because I didn't have experience with this, I said, promise me if it doesn't work that you're going to go to the hospital. And he says, okay, and he went home. He used it for a few days, and his eye was white, it cleared up, everything was good. So I can say that I've helped people with conjunctivitis. It's just basically an inflammatory eye infection. So you can see the redness there. So this is Sean. Sean you will have seen in some of the other pictures. Sean started coming to me for treatments 2 years ago. He had basically a little cystic lesion under his eye. It was causing irritation when he blinked. It was causing dryness, all sorts of different issues. This was another thing that also cleared up, and thankfully he was so impressed with the ozone, he wanted to learn more. Sean is currently living with us. He helps a lot with some of the people that come and stay in our home. He's by trade a personal trainer, so he's very physically fit. So if you think that I look physically fit, it's probably because of his good training. If you don't, then it's just me, it's fine. But he is a really, really good personal trainer, and he's so good with the people that come for treatments because he has a passion for the work as well. And he goes to our church, but you can see the different pictures here. His eyes are white, and the ozone treatment really helped with some of those things. So yeah, those are basically the ways of administering ozone. I'm going to now go into some of the experiences that I've had with some of the people that have come to me. The first one, this is Marilisa. She is a close friend to my friend Claudia, who is in the white. Her shirt says Faith. She came to England from Italy. She didn't know any English, and she'd never left Italy before coming to England. She was very unwell. You can tell that she's unwell. She had a rectal tumor, and she was told that it was terminal, that there wasn't anything that they were going to be able to do for her. She wrote her testimony, which I'm going to read to you, on her experience with the ozone and the treatments that she had when she came to England. She says, my name is Marilisa. I am 65 years old, and I live in a small village near Rome. In October 2021, I was diagnosed with rectal cancer. I initially tried natural remedies, juicing, helping the detox of my body, but it didn't work. I started to feel very weak and went to the bathroom about 20 times a day. Since my family was very worried, especially my daughters, they pushed me to go ahead with the treatments that the oncologist had proposed to me. So I started the first cycle of chemo and radiotherapy, as was the protocol at the hospital, and I felt terrible. They told me that they would resolve the situation completely in this way, but if the therapy didn't go well, they would have to operate, close everything, and put the bag on stomach. So yeah, basically a colostomy bag. So I did the therapy, but it didn't go well. I brought consequences, and out of my desperation, I invoked the Lord. Father, Lord, I don't want to put the bag on my stomach, and physically I can't take this therapy any longer. If you have another way for my healing, please let me see it, because I can't see beyond this tunnel. Only you can see. Otherwise, please put me to sleep. I have to point out that the radio and the chemo have burned my entire body in that area, front to back, because the radiotherapy was targeted right in the area, so all my skin became black, chapped like the bark of the trees. When I was feeling to go to the toilet, I was shaking for the pain and from burns. It was a nightmare. Going to the bathroom about 30 to 40 times a day, I was also losing a lot of blood. The Lord had mercy on me and sent me from England a dear sister who is a friend of mine who found out about my illness and rushed to convince me. She spoke to me about this new therapy, which would be ozone therapy. Honestly, I was a bit skeptical about it because I knew nothing about it and because I had never traveled outside of Italy, and going into a foreign country in my condition was very hard. I couldn't walk, I couldn't speak, I didn't know anyone except my friend. But I said, Lord, if this is the answer of my prayer, the path that you have drawn me for me, I will go. So I began my journey. It was difficult. I used a wheelchair to the airport and I was very weak. In England, I met Michelle, a lovely sister, a woman truly consecrated to the Lord and to this mission. She advised me to start with a very, very powerful detox based on herbs, and she rectified all the diet that I was doing, recommended by the doctors in Rome. And so we went on for 2.5 months doing ozone therapy, intermittent fasting, enemas, and liposomal vitamin C. Little by little, I began to improve, and after 2.5 months, I returned to Italy, where I did another scan, and the results they gave me showed that I was not yet completely healed. However, my tumor had shrunk a lot. So her tumor was 13 centimeters. The first scan, it had reduced to 4 millimeters. So it reduced quite significantly. I did every day ozone, rectal insufflations, breathing, vaginal insufflations. The last colonoscopy, so this was December of last year, there was nothing left. There was no cancer found in her body. She was in complete remission. The doctor was actually surprised and asked me, ma'am, but are you sure that you had cancer? Because all you see now is just a deep scar, and even the lymph nodes were no longer there. All this was possible thanks to the Lord, who opened this path for me and introduced me to the therapy, which is ozone therapy, a natural remedy for my cancer. I will never forget her and her husband. They didn't speak English, so my friend was there interpreting. Her and her husband came to my home, and they're Adventists. They do outreach work right outside of Rome. They go into Rome. They're giving out great controversies, and obviously you can see them in the picture. Those were the work that they were doing while they were in England. They were still very actively giving out great controversies in England. But they came to my home, and they sat in the living room. We were discussing ozone therapy, and the husband, he looked directly at me and he said, I don't believe that this is going to work. Being a long-term Adventist, and I had to be honest, I had to say, I don't know if it's going to work, but what do you have to lose? There's no side effects from it. It's not going to burn you like the chemo and radiation. It's not going to have all of the side effects. You don't have any other option but to try. And so that's what we did. We tried. We did everything that we could do, and praise the Lord, she's walking and giving out books in Rome nearly every day. Her sister is also plagued with cancer. Her sister, and this is who was at our home when Jonathan came over to preach to you last time. This is Louisa, and I asked for your prayers for her. She stayed at our home for 4 months. She is in a lot of ways a worse condition than Marilisa. She has very severe Parkinson's disease. She was showing very, very good signs of improvement. We did various exercises. We got her off of the medication. We did a lot of detoxing, but she's still a long ways on her journey. She's returned to Italy now, where her sister is administering ozone and various other treatments to her. Some of the other testimonials that I have, I had another woman, her name is Dorcas. She had lymphoma. It says, I am a 50-year-old mother. I was diagnosed with chronic lower back pain, lumbar spondylosis in 2012. August 2021, I was diagnosed with diffuse large B-cell lymphoma type of cancer between the nose and the eye. She had a tumor on her face. very close to the eyelid. I started chemotherapy September 2021. I was supposed to do 6 cycles of chemotherapy. Due to severe side effects, I prayed to God that He should remove fear in me, fear to die and fear of the unknown. My prayers were answered. I then stopped chemotherapy treatment. I surrendered myself fully to God that His will be done along with prayer and obeying. God directed me to this amazing lady of God, Michelle. She explained to me about ozone treatment. I was happy with everything she said. I see God's power through her humbleness. She started the treatment on the spot where the lump was. I was doing injections directly into her tumor on her face. After 3 weeks, I could feel the difference from the area. It is the same as the other area, the other side, without cancer. The area with cancer was fatter than the other, but both sides were then the same. The shape of both areas were the same. I'm glad and grateful. I trust that the cancer won't come back. She started treatment on my chronic lower back pain as well. So she was disabled. When she first came to me, she was walking hunched over with a cane. Obviously, the cancer was a more of a priority than that, but as we were going through the treatments and the various things, I started asking her questions. She had to give up her work because she was injured at work, and this caused her to be basically disabled since 2012. I've been in pain for the past 10 years, but since she started the treatment, I feel amazingly different and confident to walk without my stick. My back is not painful and heavy the way that it was. I can now sit longer than before. I can sleep better than before. I trust that my back will be completely healed. I am so grateful to Michelle. Ozone has worked along with detoxing. So that was a lymphoma. It can be very discouraging for some of these people because they stop the treatments, they stop chemotherapy, and they are being called by their doctors. She was called, and since she stopped her chemo, they were wanting to plan for her end of life. So she decided because of that, she wasn't going to go back. She was going to put complete faith in God and live whatever life God had for her. So I don't have the scans. Lisa, I do have the scans to show that the tumor is gone. But with Dorcas, I don't because she hasn't been back. But this is going on. We're in 2023. She's living, she's active, she's gardening, and she's doing well. I just saw her a few weeks ago before I came over here. So I would have to assume that she's cancer-free because they were expecting her to be dead by now. Some of the other treatments, I just treated someone for fibromyalgia before I left. I was giving her injections. She texted me while I was on the plane over here. She says, "Good morning, Michelle." Her and her husband actually both came to me because he has a slipped disc and he was needing operation. We both are feeling good. My husband looks active now. We both are very pleased with your treatment. I'm feeling my normal life coming back. My shoulder is feeling good as well. Thank you so much for this treatment. So there, I can read hundreds of these, thousands of these that I've had experience with over the last 2 years. As you can imagine, this is a very rewarding work. I'm getting messages to put my phone on airplane mode as it might be interfering with the signal. Okay, so that's done. It is a very rewarding work, but it can also be very tiring because obviously I'm working as well. This was posted. I thought that this was very sweet. This was posted by a young person in our church. We appreciate that Michelle heals and saves lives. This is an amazing gift. And there again, my church doesn't really know a lot of what I do because I feel like this is an outreach. 80% of the people that I see that come to my home are non-Adventists. And I've been impressed. Obviously, like I said, this is a ministry for me. And I have been encouraged to charge people fees. I've resisted that. I've basically been carrying the ministry and trying to financially support it myself, because I don't feel like if you're in a situation where you're terminal and you're very sick, that you should be worrying about money. In England, medicine is kind of considered to be free on the NHS, despite the fact that they force you to pay for it every month in your salary. It's like a tax, but they take it out, so you don't have any option. But people view it as free. And so I've been trying to offer it to people at a rate that is affordable, and that people can get well, because that's ultimately where you want to be. In this country, I would expect, because America is the worst for charging in relationship to medicine. Things are so expensive. Just in my commercial work, a piece of equipment that I would sell into the UK would be 3 times the price here in the USA. Things are just very expensive. So if you're looking at clinics to get ozone treatment, you might be discouraged because of the price tag that's going to come along with it. And in that case, I would encourage you to try to do some research and try to look at ways of administering it yourself, if at all possible, or get your family involved and go together on the project, because that's basically what I did.
Through your research that you've done, is there any condition that a person may have in the blood that you would not recommend? Because I read it somewhere on the YouTube from one of the doctors that does the treatment, but I can't recall what it is.
They say that
Blood, something related to the blood.
thyroid issues can
No.
cause problems. That's the only condition that I'm aware of that can cause problems in relationship to ozone therapy. I have read that, but then I've also read that it helps thyroid conditions. And I personally have never experienced that. I've treated people with both overactive and underactive thyroid, and their conditions have improved after the ozone therapy. And so, realistically speaking, I haven't had any serious side effects in relationship to ozone, and I'm not aware of any kind
Yeah.
of
It had something to do
conditions
with some
outside
type
of
of
that.
a red blood cell or
Mm.
macrophagia, or I'm not sure. I don't remember or recall what it is, but it's got something to do with the blood cells.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I mean, I suppose if you're on pharmaceuticals, they're gonna work against each other. So potentially, it could be more of an interaction with a pharmaceutical and the ozone than an actual disease or a blood kind of issue. I don't know. It's not anything that I'm aware of, though.
Okay. Um, some of you might remember Marcia Nagel. She came here during COVID, and her husband went to Dr. Schellenberg. He's in Nevada. It was a
Okay.
long trip because her husband had Parkinson's, and he really had a good protocol that helped him. And Marcia herself has gone not to Dr. Schellenberg, but to one of his people that he's trained. And I
Okay.
believe that she is in West Covina because she had, I don't know, some injury on her leg or her arm. And I was very interested in it because I had both torn meniscus, which she was so sure it would help, and then I had bursitis on my hip at the same time. And I really wanted to go, but you're right about the price. They charge like $200 just to say hello and to take a
Exactly.
consultation, and then you have to pay, a lot for the shots, and you have to get several shots,
Yes. Yes.
intermittently.
Yep.
But she swears that they do help. So in that case, if something helps, then so if anybody's interested in this, you could talk to Marcia, and there is a practitioner in West Covina, which is not too far, but
Yes.
so I just thought I would share that with anybody who's interested. Marcia Nagel. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. It's good to know some of these things because obviously I'm in England. It's very far to come for me to be able to realistically help anybody. So there are clinics around, but yes, the prices in London for just in England for just an injection are anywhere from 150 to 250 pounds. So it is quite expensive treatments, sadly.
How long is the training?
How long is the training? So I, my training that I have gone through has been on my own. I've known of people that have gone through training and they've come out and we kind of disagree on the treatment plans. I feel like a lot of the training courses don't do ozone aggressively enough to get the results that they're getting. So what I would recommend to you, I mean, you can have a training course that lasts, I think the last one I saw was only like 3 months. It's an online study course. You get a certificate at the end of it. But if you do go through something like that, keep an open mind and do your own research. There's books available. There's a lot of resources online. I wouldn't just take the opinion of one person and say that this is the gold standard, because ozone is vast and there's so much information out there. I would collect as much information as you possibly can, and you can always be in contact with me. I can guide you to some of those places if that's something that you're interested in.
And so you will leave your contact information, because I would like to find out more about the liposomal vitamin C. You said that you had like recipes and things
Yes,
like that.
of course,
Okay,
of course.
awesome.
Jonathan, you can get in touch with the ministry. He has a little magazine, and I'll send all of that information to you. I don't, like I said, I don't charge for this ministry, and so if I can equip you with ways of helping yourself and others, I feel like I've done a good job and a good thing to promote the health to other people.
Thank you. I do have one more question.
Yeah.
So in our first service, you talked about the hydrotherapy, the hot and the cold.
Yes.
So I know about it, but I've been scared to do the cold. So with that being said, how long would you recommend then to do the cold part?
There's,
2 minutes.
I don't do it that long, to be honest. So what I do in the shower, and I do this every day when I shower, I have my handheld shower head. The hot, and I think this is kind of where people make a mistake. They have warm water that feels nice and comfy. Well, actually, the hot water should feel just as uncomfortable as the cold water. It should be a little bit stingy when you're showering with the hot water. And then when you go to the cold water, it's actually not so bad, because both of them kind of balance each other out. I haven't timed it. I would guess that I do about a minute for both and do 3 cycles. So start with hot, go to cold, hot, cold, finish with the cold. You will notice amazing benefits from it. If you get out of the shower and you don't feel warm, you did something wrong, because basically the cold is going to activate your body into producing heat, and you should feel warm at that point. Almost to the point of uncomfortably warm, because it does activate and stimulate all of your body.
So daily do this, or?
You don't have to do it daily. I just noticed that I just felt so good, and I go to the gym quite a bit, and I have sore muscles after I go to the gym, and it seems like it helps with a lot of those things, and I think it's just good for increasing your circulation, metabolism, all of those things. So it's become a habit for me. I would honestly think here in California that your cold water isn't gonna be that cold. Oh, okay, fine. So maybe it is really cold. Of course, it's the same with us in England. During the summertime, it's just a little bit, it's cold, but it's not that cold. Where when the weather changes, then you're like, oh, sometimes in the cold of winter, I think that it's so cold, it feels like it should be solid ice coming out. It's so cold. But if you stick with it, it does get better. And the benefits definitely outweigh the discomfort of doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, right now, a lot of people are getting bronchitis. You know, it seems like quite a few people that I know are going through a phase. And so I was getting it for the last week, and I was dragging, and then finally, my nose started running, and I felt awful. So I went into the shower. I usually have hot and cold every day, and, you know, if you're not sick, that's,
Sure.
you know, that's okay. But so, when I got so sick, then I took the hot, like you say, as hot as I could, and cold, And then I did that 3 times, and it just knocked it out right there and then. So, it's really effective. And and I
Definitely.
think it's good as soon as you start feeling it coming on. I should have
Yes.
started a little bit sooner, but it just in one day, because I did it as hot as I could and cold as I could, and I just can't believe it's just gone. So it is going around. I know some people are just very, very sick with that bronchitis, and that is really an effective remedy.
Definitely, definitely. The key is to catch things early. Normally, if I feel a bit of something coming on, I do the exact same thing. Hot and cold shower, a huge dose of liposomal vitamin C. I may or may not do ozone. You have to be a little bit careful with ozone. Ozone is an oxidant where vitamin C is an antioxidant, and you have to separate them, otherwise they'll cancel each other out. If you have ozone therapy, you have to wait 2 hours before you take vitamin C. If you take vitamin C, and I'm talking about high dose vitamin C, so if you eat an orange, it's not that big of a deal. But if you take high dose vitamin C, you should realistically wait 8 hours before you have ozone therapy, just to give your body a chance to utilize the treatment that you've taken. But yes, definitely, first signs of any kind of illness, I do hot and cold, take lots of vitamin C, go to bed. By the next day, I normally don't have anything. It takes care of it right away. If you let a virus or something like that get a hold of you, then it's already kind of done some damage. You can do things to kind of ease some of the symptoms, but then you just have to let it run its course at the end of the day, because it's really gotten a hold of your body.
So you mentioned that vitamin C. I missed it, but do you have certain brands of vitamin C that you feel are better than others? There's so many out on the market, and some of them are just loaded with sugar. So can you give us a few that that are better than others?
Sure. So I would encourage you to watch the video in the morning later. I promote and advocate for liposomal vitamin C specifically. If you want to buy it, the company that I buy it from is actually an American company. It's called Altrient liposomal vitamin C. You can Google it. Again, it's quite expensive for 30 little sachets. I think it's about $40, maybe more than $40. So I actually have recipes which I'll share with you. You can make it on your own. You just need a few things. It's only 3 ingredients. You need the vitamin C powder, lecithin, and distilled water is all you need. You can make enormous amounts of vitamin C. The only thing is you have to keep it in the fridge, whereas the little packets of Altrient are packets, so it's a little bit more convenient, but they are expensive.
I take a shower, hot and cold, every day. Then I get on my bike and ride to work, full of energy.
Yes.
You don't need any stimulant to get going, because that hot and cold will give you the energy
Exactly.
all day,
Definitely.
to the point where when I ride home, I still have energy.
Praise God for that. You don't need your morning coffee if you do a hot and cold shower.
Speaking of vitamin C, I just thought I'd mention this. I ran across a video on YouTube where the scientist Linus Pauling was the host. And he talked about, and he was working with medical doctors using this treatment that he was promoting. Large amounts of vitamin C combined with the amino acid L-lysine.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having people with a lot of cardiovascular disease, but specifically those with plaque buildup,
Okay.
and reversing it.
Yes, I'm very
Because
sure that those would help.
He pointed out in his lecture that the plaque buildup actually starts with scars
Mm.
that form in the arteries. And the scars form because the people are not producing enough collagen.
Mm.
There's different types of collagen that our bodies make, but the type that the arteries need, because they're elastic, And so if they don't have enough of that collagen, these little scars form, and that's what the plaque starts attaching onto. So vitamin C is involved in collagen production,
Sure.
and so is L-lysine.
Mm.
Now, it's my understanding that L-lysine is not in the final collagen, but it's involved in the production of the collagen, and a lot of people are deficient of L-lysine. So he was actually having people clear out their arteries by taking large amounts of vitamin C and L-lysine.
Very good. As far as the collagen goes, I know specifically that the company Altriant has done studies. They did I think OCT scans on people on their skin, and they showed the different layers of the skin they did before and after using the vitamin C, and they did show increased collagen production just by taking 3 packets of their vitamin C a day for I think 2 or 3 months. They actually have papers on it. The company did very good with that. So it is clinically proven to make a difference in your skin and the collagen production in your body.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, that video is pretty easy to find on YouTube. If you just search for Linus Pauling cardiovascular disease or something like that.
Very good. It's the liposomal vitamin C. Yeah.
Just a quick question. If I wanted to buy some of the little jars that you have, like for gym injuries or something,
Sure.
do you sell that, and would you be able to send that from your?
So it would
Oh.
probably be more expensive for me to send than it would, because shipping from the UK is extortionately expensive. I would suggest just getting some online. It's probably going to be better than what I make at home anyway, because they have probably more powerful ozone generators that they use industrial to make the ozone oils that they do here. So yeah, buy it on Promolife website probably, because yeah, it would be very expensive to ship from England. But if you fly to England and come visit us, I'll give you some for free.
All right. Thank you.
What is high dose vitamin C to you?
High dose vitamin C to me is when I was unwell with the sepsis, I was taking 20 to 30 grams for a short period of time. So that's 20 to 30,000 milligrams, which a normal dosage is only 1,000 milligrams. So that is extremely high dose of vitamin C. I wouldn't take that for a huge amount of time. I would just take that for a short time to get over whatever serious condition that you might be having, and then taper it down. I personally don't like to rely on supplements. I don't take a lot of herbs. I don't take a lot of supplements. I take them and use them as a medicine when I need them, but I try to focus on my diet and keeping my diet into a position where that keeps me in a healthy place. So vitamin C, the only caution that I would give to anybody is don't allow your body to become reliant on that as a supplement. Use it as a medicine when you need it. You can use high doses of it, but get off of it. Yes, so I was taking, when I was the sickest, I was taking 30 grams probably for only 3 days, and then each day, and then I cut it down, slowly tapered it down to then nothing, essentially.
Thank you for all those questions. I know you have a trip going to Arizona.
Okay, that's okay.
And so thank you for coming.
Thank you for
and-
having us.
And would you like to close with prayer?
Yes, I will. I will do that. Dear Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, for your Sabbath day. Thank you for each and every person here today, for being a faithful follower of you, Lord. Please bless them on their journey, both spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. Obviously, all of these things come into play when we talk about the health message, Lord. We ask that you impress on each one of us the job and the role that you have us to play in our interactions, not only with our family members, our friends, our work colleagues. Help us to always show the love that you have to everyone that we come in contact with. As we part now, I ask that your blessing be on each one of these people here. Guide them as a church family, and guide them in the ministry work that you have for them to do. We leave all of these things in your hands. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.